Hello, and welcome to the Joel Wolfe Podcast. Join Joel Wolfe as she recounts her adventures in parenting, reveals her hard-won secrets to a strong marriage, and confides how we can all grow closer to God. You'll cheer at her victories, laugh at her calamities, and most of all, come away with the tools to tame the chaos in your own home with the courage to live life to its fullest, just the way God intended. Don't miss a single episode because life's better here.
It's cute. I like it. Anyway, so lots of years, but this is where we're at now. That was taken just a few weeks ago down in Cancun. So now the difference between that and our wedding picture, can you flip back to that?
His hair.
Now, those two people loved each other and they had great hopes and dreams. Now go back to the one from the Cancun one, just the recent one. There you go. Those two people have been through a lot and we've learned a lot. We're not perfect, but we're pushing and shoving for this relationship to get over to here. Now, it's not always perfect and it's not always easy, but it's worth the fight. And we have learned, and we are still learning, the rest of this equation, which is this habits thing right here. And that's what we're going to talk about for the next couple of weeks. Keep that reaction to stress thing. We're going to, work on that on different things and your personal growth. Stay in church, be really close. But this habit thing, we're going to learn a little bit more here over the next couple of weeks on just some basic things that you can do to help push that relationship closer and closer to the happy side. When do we have to be done here?
10:30.
Okay, we better hurry.
When did we start?
I don't remember. We've just been having so much fun. Okay, so let's talk about habits. Habits are things that you do on a repetitious basis that causes you to act in a certain way. Okay? And do you want to talk a little bit about that?
My feeling about habits as we get into habits, and you and I have been spending a lot of time talking on this topic and getting ready for Habits of Happy Couples. And one of the things that has hit me a little bit about habits is that, and thinking about today, is that we're talking to really healthy people, some healthy relationships, and some relationships that aren't so healthy. And yet, I think even people that love each other could improve their relationships by improving their habits or adding more healthy habits in their relationship. Mm-hmm. In other words, just because you love your spouse, because immediately it could be that we think, or we might think, well, I don't have any really critical issues with my spouse. I don't have any huge negatives with my spouse. My marriage is okay. But nonetheless, even if there aren't any great negatives, a marriage can get better by employing habits, and habits that are purposeful, intentional, habits that are positive. And so when we think about habits, it's not just things for the marriage in crisis or the marriage that's having a hard time. But when we think about the habits that we're going to be discussing, it's habits that every one of us, even if we're healthy inwardly, we're healthy emotionally, we're healthy in the Lord, there's things that we can do that will augment or strengthen or improve our marriage, inasmuch as even the marriage in crisis needs some of those habits. Those who are healthy need those habits too.
Now, it's very important also that as we go on with this sermon series, that as you're sitting there, hopefully maybe next to your spouse or a seat away from your spouse or however it is, that when you listen to this is about you changing you, not about how you hope that they change.
Just in case it gets heated, just in case we say
so
some
like
things.
the ride home today in the car, the conversation shouldn't go something like, honey, are we driving? Here it is. No, you got to be on that side. Honey, boy, don't you just love New Horizon?
Well, that's the truth.
That is the best church ever. You can say that.
What an amazing,
but honey, you know what? I really like that
pastor
sermon. I love the pastor.
So sweet.
But you know what? I just want to let you know that I heard that, you better be driving. I heard, during the sermon there that about the criticism.
Should we
and that
pass
kind
a
of
car right now?
No, absolutely not. About criticism. And I really think that if you would quit criticizing me, life would be better.
I had a funny feeling you were going to be listening just like that during the message. And that's exactly why I was thinking when they talked about that whole thing about criticizing the way your husband drives, I felt like you should have been listening to that part.
So this is not how you're supposed to go home driving. You need to go home driving with a conversation like this. Isn't New Horizon amazing?
Yes. Oh,
I love those pastors. They are amazing. They're wonderful.
Oh, the illustrations.
And you know what, honey?
Yes.
When they started talking about criticism and that kind of thing, I really want to apologize to you because I have a tendency to be critical, and I need to change that in me.
Oh, honey, that's sweet of you to say that.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Honey, that's the part that you're supposed to omit.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so
Just finish with your part.
I don't ever want to be critical. I'll try so hard.
The teary part's good, too. And then I say something like, oh, honey, thank you. I wasn't even thinking about that. What I was thinking about was how that sometimes I just take our marriage for granted. I don't really love you or show it like I should. And that's one of the habits I should be developing.
Wonderful. See how that works? A lot better. So, over the next couple of weeks, please listen for you and what you can change and bring your changes to the table. Amen? Okay, so our first habit that we're going to talk about here today, got your piece of paper and pencils out? Our first habit that we're going to talk about today is to have where is it? Oh, there it is.
Habit of bettering your marriage. Commit to bettering your marriage.
Mm-hmm. Now, marriage is something that, a lot of times you get into, and when you very first get into it, that's all you think about is your marriage and all of that kind of thing. But in reality, a lot of times when life hits, you start kind of taking the marriage for granted, and then you start doing life. Amen? Anybody can relate to that?
The longer the marriage goes, from the very get-go. This doesn't take long. It's kind of like depreciation on a car.
That's right.
You drive it out of the showroom, it loses a lot of value quickly. And the longer your marriage goes, even quickly, within the first year or two, there can be a lot of lackluster, a lot of loss of passion, excitement, joy, and heartfelt love and expression.
So now, and I'm speaking to you whether you're married a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you have to commit to always working on that marriage and that relationship. And today here, I want to really encourage you that regardless of, when you get married, you're very focused on each other. And then you start kind of looking out here because you got to go to work and you got to do this and you got to take care of the kids and you got to do this and you got to do that. And you're supposed to be turning around looking the other way too.
Yeah, me too.
So you start kind of doing this kind of thing. And then you end up kind of, when you're married, kind of acting like this. You got each other's back. You got each other's back, and you're doing all this kind of thing, but you're not really working on each other. And I'm hoping that by the end of today, you're really motivated to turn around and spend some time concentrating on what you have here. Because I'll just tell you something right now. If you don't have this down, everything out here will not work. You can be the best parents in the world, but if your kids know that you do not love each other and that this is not there, they will be insecure and frustrated. They'll be playing you against each other. This has got to work. So I really want to encourage you that regardless of how long you've been married and how stressed you are and how stinking busy you are, I frankly am unimpressed. Because you have to make a habit of spending time together. You have to make a habit of somehow building
this relationship, making this relationship better. Always thinking about that, always spending some kind of focus. It's important.
Because life with this broken is far more stressful. Amen? And so there's a couple of things. Let's see, you've got a verse here.
Well, just thinking about that, I was thinking about how that everything... not just everything, but our passion, our love, the things that kind of fuel our relationship, they burn up.
Yep.
So they have to be replenished.
We
talked a little bit about how rekindling is a common phrase or word. Rekindling love, rekindling the flame. Because the fuel of love, the passion of love, the joy of love burns up. It runs out. So we have to continually put new wood or kindling on that fire. And just Ephesians 5:29. After all, speaking of marriage, no one ever hated his own body, but feeds and cares for it just as Christ does the church.
Amen, and that's
so
like a marriage.
This whole thing about the marriage and about you in my life, and it has to be something that I feed and care for, that I want strengthened, I want it improved, and not just sporadically, and not just when a marriage seminar comes to town, and not just when I hear about something, but it's actually a part of my daytimer. It's a part of my calendar. It's a part of my mindset. It's a part of my appointments, that I'm thinking on how to better our relationship, better me, and better our relationship.
Amen. And there's a couple of really practical steps, and this is something I really want every single one of you to do. It's very, very important, I feel like, that you always or quite frequently have a book that you're reading together. I don't know if you have a habit of reading, maybe before you go to sleep at night or whatever, but I really want to encourage you to have a book that you're kind of reading together. Maybe not every single day, every day, but every once in a while, grab a good book on marriage and just kind of read it together. When we go on vacations, a lot of times, not when we're with the kids because it's all crazy then, but when it's Dwain and I, a lot of times I will pick up the newest marriage book that's out there, and we will read it together when we're on our vacation.
It's
and
a great $10, $13 investment.
We do tons of other things, and when we're laying around the pool there and kind of just laying there, I'll read something out loud, and we'll just talk about it. It is so nourishing to the marriage. Or maybe just before you go to sleep at night, just pull out a book and read a sentence, a paragraph, a chapter, whatever you can. But it's enough something to get you thinking about how you're relating. Amen?
There's not a lot of, let's admit this, there's not a lot of reading or enough reading going on, even amongst Christians. This is part of why in Christianity the divorce rate is not much different than it is outside with regard to in the church or out of the church. And part of that is just because we're not committing to one another with practical habits. We're not developing our relationships with practical habits. And reading is one of those practical habits that not only improves our knowledge, but connects us relationally. So it's not just a matter of her reading and me reading, but in addition, us sharing and or reading together, and that now connects us, because now we're talking about what we're reading, we're talking about how it applies to us, and it's going to increase not just the reading and the learning, but the communication and the intimacy.
Here's some books that I'd like to really recommend, and I've got these over here at the book table today. And
is this everything you picked up off the book table?
No, just some of them.
Because there's a whole bunch of new titles at the book table today.
Yeah, but they're well priced. Grab a book and see what you can do. This is called Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. This is what I do with all the pre-marriage counseling that comes through the church here. But this book in particular is wonderful, whether you have been married or for a long time or not. This book is very solid, very easy to read. Les and Leslie Parrott. We have another one written by them, called Your Time-Starved Marriage. And I think this one I would highly recommend today. I actually picked these up off of the internet for $2.99. And so we had to add a little bit as far as the shipping and handling is concerned. I think we're selling these for $5. I'm not making any money. This is an amazing book. This is wonderful. Your Time-Starved Marriage.
That's one of the ones we went over on the vacation.
Yeah, and it talks a lot about just, kind of how to stay connected. Well, here's their thing, how to stay connected at the speed of life. Wonderful book. Another book that I really would recommend that you go through, especially if you're kind of dealing with a little bit of strife and stress in your marriage, is The 5 Languages of Apology. I think this is it's written by the same guy who wrote The 5 Languages of Love. And this book is really, really good at how to apologize, how to reconstruct your relationship. Very, very good. Talks a lot about forgiveness and apology and, kind of trust and all that kind of thing. Then we have another one here, but I thought we were going to save this for the next week when we were going to talk about sex.
No. Well, they could buy it now.
Yeah, and they could get reading ahead of time. This book
is for musicians, isn't it?
It's called Sheet Music. And it's absolutely the best book written on sex, I believe, that's out there. Great book. Just, like I said, there's other books over there. Grab them. Have that a part of your habit and your life. Another practical step for turning yourself towards one another and committing to a good marriage is this. And this is very, very personal. So I want everybody to kind of stop thinking about your spouse now and all that kind of thing. But I want you to think about yourself. A very large portion they're finding when they do research of marriages that are unhappy, a very large portion of that problem occurs between your ears. And they have found that your commitment to your thought life and how you deal with and how you handle, and the thoughts that you have regarding your spouse or regarding that person that you have a relationship can really drive what's going on.
Thanks for joining us today for this episode of the Joel Wolfe Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the message. Don't forget to subscribe to receive more great content regularly and visit us online at joelwolfe.me, as well as on Facebook at facebook.com/author Joel Wolfe. Be sure to check out Joel's latest book, Courage in Chaos, which Dr. Kevin Lehman says inspires both the heart and the head in equal measure. It's available for purchase at her website. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, have a great day.